Florence's Duomo is one of the most iconic cathedrals in the world, but visiting it can feel a little intimidating. There are multiple buildings, entrances, ticket types, prices, and time slots.
But don't worry, we'll walk you through all of it step by step so you can enjoy your visit stress-free.
Before we get into the details, let's take an overview of the whole complex.
First of all, there's the cathedral with Brunelleschi's dome, an engineering tour de force of the 15th century.
In front of it is the baptistry, traditionally where baptisms were held.
Giotto's bell tower is a separate structure whose bells call people to Mass.
The ruins of Santa Reparata, the church before the Duomo was here, are below the current cathedral.
And finally, there's the fascinating but often overlooked Opera del Duomo Museum.
And in that, don't be confused about the word opera, because it means works in Italian rather than music, so it has nothing to do with what we think of as opera.
Let's start with the cathedral itself, which is what most people think of when they hear Florence Duomo. It took over 140 years to complete, from 1296 to 1436.
You don't need a ticket to go into the main floor of the cathedral, but you do need to stand in line and go through security.
Now, we've got a way for you to avoid that line and get into the cathedral without that long wait, and we'll tell you about that a little bit later in the video.
The main floor is open from about 10 o'clock to about 2:30, Monday through Saturday in the summer. It's closed on Sundays and holidays, and it has somewhat shorter hours in the winter.
Inside, the cathedral is quite austere, intentionally so. But the real wow moment is when you look up at the dome and you see the amazing fresco of the Last Judgment that was started by Giorgio Vasari and finished by Federico Zuccari.
Now, fun fact here, the term Duomo comes from the Latin Domus Dei, or House of the Lord. So that's roughly what we call a cathedral in English, Duomo. But that's something that people are often asking is, what does this word mean?
This is the star attraction for many. The climb to the top of Brunelleschi's dome is probably the most thrilling and the most rewarding part of the visit to the Duomo. From the top, you get a stunning view, 360 degrees of all of Florence, as well as the Tuscan hills beyond.
And as you climb up, you'll be just feet away from the dramatic fresco of the Last Judgment that we just talked about, which is full of saints and angels and demons in full color and incredible, but sometimes gruesome detail.
I climbed the dome alone. Ed does not really like heights, so he decided to sit this one out, and he sat in the piazza with a cappuccino.
It was a much better experience for me. The dome was designed by Filippo Brunelleschi and built with a double shell structure without scaffolding, using herringbone brickwork and iron chains to hold everything in place. It was a real marvel of Renaissance engineering.
The dome climb opens at 8:30 a.m. and closes at about 7 p.m., but the last entry is a half an hour before closing.
To do the climb, you enter on the north side of the cathedral. It's called the Porta della Mandorla, and that is on the left side of the building as you face it from the front.
The climb itself is 463 steps, that's right, and there's no elevator. And it goes through steep, narrow, and spiral staircases between the inner and outer domes. It's not for the claustrophobic, and it's a bit of a workout, but if you're reasonably fit, it's absolutely worth it.
You need a reservation for a specific time slot to climb the dome, and you'll get that time slot when you buy your ticket. Now, children under 18 must be accompanied by an adult.
Okay, I'm down from the dome climb. That was wonderful. Going up is a bit of a thigh burner, and going down is a little hard on the knees, but I think it's good training for the Camino de Santiago that I'll be doing in October. Just in front of the cathedral is the baptistry, and that is the oldest building in the whole complex, even older than the cathedral itself.
The baptistry of San Giovanni was built between 1059 and 1128 in the Romanesque style.
It's best known for its 3 sets of bronze doors. The east set of doors by Lorenzo Ghiberti is nearest the Duomo, and it's called the Gates of Paradise, and apparently Michelangelo gave them that name.
It's worth noting that all of the doors outside are actually replicas. You can see the originals when you go and visit the Museo dell'Opera del Duomo.
The baptistry usually opens early, around 8:15 in the morning. It closes for a brief period mid-morning, and then it opens again until 6:30 in the evening. Now, times will vary seasonally, so check the website.
The big highlight inside is the ceiling, the golden mosaic of the Last Judgment and other biblical stories. A visit here doesn't take long, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, but it's certainly worth it.
Here's another spot for a terrific view of Florence and another serious stair climb with no elevator. From the top, you get a great view of Florence, and you also, as an added bonus, get a close-up view of the outside of Brunelleschi's dome. Now, there's a caveat. At the moment, they've got some construction going on, so it's got a cover on it, so it's not the best view at the moment. But normally, you can see the dome from pretty close up.
The climb to the top's 414 steps, and of course there's no elevator. The views are fantastic, but there is a wire cage around the top, which makes using a regular camera a little difficult because of having to get the lens between the mesh. But a phone camera works fine.
The bell tower is open roughly between 8:30 in the morning and 7 p.m. at night. Now, it's a serious climb, so if you've already climbed up the dome, you probably don't need to climb up this one as well unless you're really into stair climbing.
And as you can probably guess, I took a pass on this and decided to go have a aperitivo while Anne was doing the climb.
Underneath the cathedral is a secret that most people miss. It's the ruins of Santa Reparata, which was the church that was there before the Duomo was built.
Now inside here, you can see the floor plans of the original church, some of the original mosaics, and the tombs of some early Florence residents.
It's also where Filippo Brunelleschi is buried, and you can see his tomb through a grate in the wall in the bookshop of all places.
You access Santa Reparata by a separate entrance on the south side of the building. That's the right side as you're standing in front of the Duomo. A visit only takes about 20 or 30 minutes.
After seeing all of the other buildings, the museum helps put the whole story together. And it's also where a lot of the original artworks are housed.
Let me give you a little tip. This museum is fascinating, and even though I've been many times, I'll often go back on another visit to Florence. If I had to skip something of all the sites, I would skip the baptistry or the bell tower climb and make sure I had time to see this museum.
Plus, it's air conditioned, a very nice benefit on a hot summer day, and it's not usually very crowded.
The museum opens at 8:30 and closes at 7 in the summer, with shorter hours in the winter. And the last entry is about a half an hour before it closes.
Now, don't miss the doors from the baptistry, the originals by Ghiberti, the famous Gates of Paradise that we mentioned before. And you'll notice how on these almost flat panels of the doors, Ghiberti was able to achieve incredible depth and perspective.
You'll also see Donatello's wooden statue of Mary Magdalene, which is stark and haunting, as well as Michelangelo's Pietà Bandini, which he started late in his life, and it's thought that maybe he intended it for his tomb.
One of the coolest things in the museum is a detailed model and an audiovisual display showing how Brunelleschi designed and built the dome.
Now that we've laid out what there is to see, let's break down ticket options and prices. Now, all these tickets will be good for 3 days, so you can spread your visit out over a little bit of time. But some of these sites require you to have a specific entrance time.
Ideally, you should book your tickets online before your visit, particularly if you want to climb the dome. Now, if you haven't bought your tickets ahead of time, head to the ticket office, which is on the north side of the baptistry at number 7.
You'll see a small statue of San Giovanni above the door.
There are 3 ticket options. The first one is and cheapest one is the Ghiberti pass for €15, and that gets you into the Baptistry, the Opera del Duomo Museum, and the Santa Reparata. And when you buy the ticket, you will book a time slot to get into Santa Reparata.
The next pass is the Giotto pass, and it includes everything in the Ghiberti pass, plus the ability to climb the bell tower. It costs €20, and you'll book a time for that climb of the bell tower when you buy your ticket.
The third and final pass is called the Brunelleschi pass, and that includes everything, all of the buildings, including a climb of the dome. And it's the only pass that allows you to climb the dome. And when you buy it, you then reserve a time slot for your climb.
Now, an important thing, this Brunelleschi pass is the most popular, and it often sells out well in advance. You need to book at least 3 weeks in advance, and you can book up to 6 months in advance to make sure you get the time slot that you'd like to have.
Okay, so what if the Brunelleschi pass is sold out when you want to go and you're desperate to climb to the top of the dome? Well, don't panic. There are a couple other options. One is to go with an outside tour company. So companies like Get Your Guide often reserve blocks of tickets. Now be warned, they come at a price premium versus the ticket that you get at the Duomo itself. But if you really want to climb the dome, that could be a great option. Alternatively, you can check back. Sometimes people cancel or don't show up, and you may be able to get a ticket that way. And I guess the final thing to say is if you're really after the view, then go ahead and climb the bell tower. Those tickets are much easier to come by. You get a great view, even if it's not inside the dome.
Here are a few tips to make your visit easier. First, we promised you an insider way to get into the Duomo without having to stand in line. And that is to get the ticket to the Santa Reparata, because you can go into Santa Reparata, and when you come out, you end up in the Duomo. And then you haven't had to stand in that long line.
Okay, number 2, there's a strict dress code for the cathedral. Shoulders and knees must be covered up. So if you're wearing a tank top or shorts, what you want to do is bring a scarf or a shawl to cover yourself up. Otherwise, you won't be allowed in. And just interestingly, I was wearing a skirt which was only about an inch above my knee, and the guard made me pull it down so that it covered my knee. There were a couple of other young women who they were wearing tank tops, and they had to go and get this kind of weird thing to cover up with before they could go into the cathedral. Also, note, sandals are not allowed, nor are hats inside the cathedral.
Tip number 3, there are restrooms only in the ticket office and in the museum.
Number 4, no backpacks or large bags are allowed in any of the buildings. Now, there is a luggage and bag storage area right next to the museum, just to the left of it.
Tip number 5, if you bought online, print or screenshot your ticket. The cell service in the Duomo area can be really unreliable.
Tip number 6, there's a Firenze card which will get you into a bunch of different museums around town. That does not include the Duomo.
So, how do you decide which ticket is right for you?
If you want to climb the dome, then the Brunelleschi pass is the way to go. If you don't care about climbing the dome, then you can probably just go with the Ghiberti and Giotto passes, which are cheaper.
Besides the main floor of the cathedral or the climb to the dome, the museum is the most worthwhile place to visit.
We hope this video helped take the stress out of visiting the Duomo. You're gonna love the experience.
If you have questions, please drop them in the comments. We really love helping people get the most out of their trip to Italy.
Ciao for now.
A presto.
And buon viaggio.